if more people came in ready to get hit and looked at the hits as the good stuff, right? The struggle. Like if I'm getting in there and getting my ass whipped, I look at that as, hey man, I'm learning. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to whip this guy's ass, right? It might take me 6 months, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm willing to go in there and pay the price to figure it out. That's the way people should approach business is I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to take the hits. I'm going to do what it takes, but I'm not giving up.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grenzig. With me, as always, John Cohen. How you doing?
We're good. We're hanging in there, battling this, I don't even know what week it is in quarantine. We're getting some systems built, which I'm really excited about. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the best part of where we're at. Yeah, no, it's been good to kind of take a step back a little bit the last couple of weeks, tighten up some things we've let loose or, put to the wayside and been focused on, finding deals, raising money, hitting returns, stuff like that. So being able to build up some of those things, tighten them up, has been good. Definitely learning a lot. Excited for how we're going to continue to build that stuff out, but I think it's going to be good. Yeah, awesome. But let's dive right in. I think we got a really excellent guest on today. I think he's going to have some really good experience, insights, and opinions on a lot of different things. So I'm really excited to just jump into a conversation, hear his story, and just his ideas on a lot of different things. So with that being said, Kent, thanks for coming on, bud.
Absolutely, brother. My pleasure to be here.
Awesome. You want to take a few minutes, just tell the people who you are, where you're from, what you do, stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I live in out here in La Jolla, California. I run a company called Real Estate Worldwide that I founded back in 2006, along with our company called REI Nation, which is probably kind of used to be Memphis Invest, probably the premier turnkey provider for the last 10 years or so. Where we buy and sell roughly about 900 properties a year in 700 markets. 707 markets, excuse me. So I mean, our company Real Estate Worldwide really focuses on teaching people how to get in the game at kind of every level, if you will, right? So I became very, very passionate over the years about unlocking things for people that were kind of holding them back when it came to real estate. I think a lot of people get tied up, whether it's real estate or any other business, they get tied up believing success is a lot more challenging and difficult than it really is. If you've got a simple plan and you're willing to put in the effort and you can kind of move in an intentional way, then, as we have all proven, you can take guys like us and turn them into very, very successful people. There's nothing special about any of us. The simple fact is that we do it when others don't. So I think that's something I'm pretty passionate about. We've now had, I guess, over 60,000 students come through our programs over the last few years. And we've got a very, very successful software business that we kind of help people connect a lot of dots in the real estate space. So yeah, I mean, we can take this conversation in any direction you guys want to go. Between that and then my prior life and building a successful arbitrage business and losing all that, prior to the last recession. I mean, it's going to be a fun little conversation here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's awesome. I think a lot of people obviously know you a little bit, but can you start towards more the beginning and a little bit of context of how you got into it, got started? It sounded like you had some sort of other business right before the crash that failed. I think that could be
so absolutely. So I started in business when I was 17. I started an arbitrage business where I was basically buying and selling truckloads of groceries at the wholesale level. So I would go into different, whether it's retailers or wholesalers, every item that's on a grocery store floor, or there's roughly between 25 and 40,000 in any grocery store, every one of those items, a manufacturer is selling for a specific price into that specific market, right? Mm-hmm. And that item is exactly the same everywhere in the world. What's different is they sell it at a huge discount in one market and don't sell it at a discount in another. So, take a guy like me who kind of figured that out, along with some others. And we would go in and buy, a truckload of Peter Pan peanut butter in Miami, Florida. And then we would, for $50,000 and we would ship it across the country or 100 miles down the street, really didn't matter, to somebody that was paying list price for it. And so go sell that same $50,000 truck, go sell it for $80,000. And, being an enterprising young guy, being raised in an entrepreneurial family, that seemed very natural to me to be doing from it when I started at 17. By the time I was 23, we were doing $50 million a year. By the time I was 28, we were doing $800 million a year. By the time I was 30, we were doing almost $2 billion a year. And we built the 7th largest privately held company in the state of Florida. And so for me, my 20s were a little different than most, right? Mm-hmm. Very, very successful at that level. The big challenge that I had is that I was completely full of shit, and that, the whole business was me. I lived it, breathed it 24/7, was at the office at 5, leaving there at 10, married, young son at home. Neither one of them knew me. So by the time I was 30, I was divorced and ultimately ended up getting run out of my own company. And by the time I was 32, I'd effectively lost everything. And it was a shockingly humbling, very bitter situation, as you can imagine, right? Everything I'd ever worked for my entire life was just gone. And by the way, by my own doing. Just got into a run-in with my partners, decided to walk out of there and decided I was going to go try to take them out and build my new business at the expense of them. And that just didn't work out. So over the course of 2 years of lawsuits and everything else, I was done. And that's how I got to real estate. I finally got to a place where I was, went from living on the intercoastal and having all the cars and all the, the social media didn't exist then, but I would have absolutely, if it had, I'd have been the guy that was posing in front of the planes and the Lamborghinis and the hot chicks and the wristwatches and the whole damn thing, right? That was me. I was that cocky douchebag that we all see on the internet. And so losing everything was really, really challenging, but it kind of put me in a place where, like I said, going from that to effectively nothing in 2 years was a very, very hard fall. And when you get down to where you got a few $1,000s in the bank and you don't have, much less to lose, you start kind of grabbing at anything that comes along your way. And, I saw a late night infomercial, probably like we've all seen a million times. I was just one of the guys that was just desperate enough to go down there and check it out. Went and checked it out. And after after I checked it out, I got, they were talking about wholesaling, which I never even knew you could do. I had no idea you could control a property without actually really buying it. But I got pretty excited about it because I started connecting some dots and, hey man, this is very similar to what I've been doing in the grocery industry. I'm just doing it now with houses.
Yeah.
And made the investment, got involved, and inside of, inside of 3 years, I was flipping 100 houses a year by myself and making millions of dollars and doing very well down in South Florida, and things were kind of back on track. And then I started putting systems, I was getting newly married and had a new little girl on the way. And the big epiphany was, if I took my foot off the gas at all, because I was a one-man show hustling machine, the money stopped. And that wasn't freedom in any way, shape, or form. So I've quickly figured out I needed to figure out a way to highly scale the business and create massive leverage in the business without me having to be involved. And so I kind of started using a concept that I had used in the grocery industry called reverse wholesaling. I started using it in wholesaling here, which is really basically just starting with the end in mind, right? Just going out and talking to all the buyers in the market that are buying multiple properties every single month and find out exactly what they want, where do they want to buy, all that kind of good stuff, and turning around and just feeding them constantly. And turned it into a machine that was basically flipping 300-400 properties a year, which now kind of has evolved into REI Nation. That still does it to this day. And as I was doing all of that, people started noticing, because about that time, the recession hit. And when the recession snapped, most of my competitors, if not all of my competitors, not only on the information and education side, but even on the real estate side, they just all vaporized, gone overnight. And yet here we were flourishing. And then, the reason why we were flourishing is because we were just dealing with people that had money. We didn't need the banks. And so that got me a lot of attention. And suddenly, I am the guy that you see here today. And it's kind of, been around for a while because of all that, right? Because nobody knew who the hell Kent Clothier even was back then. But that kind of pulled me into this, hey man, show me. Can you automate it? Can you do this? And before you know it, now I'm teaching people. Now I'm automating their businesses. Now I'm helping. And Real Estate Worldwide was born. And the rest, as they say, is kind of history. These things kind of have grown organically out of all of that.
I love it. I think it's a tremendous story. I think it was really interesting to hear. We recorded another podcast today, which will be out a few days before yours when it goes live, with AJ Osborne. And he was hospitalized because he went paralyzed basically from head to toe. And he talked about the same thing of, he was a insurance broker and how he was working for his money, and he was fortunate enough to start investing in real estate. And as soon as he couldn't work anymore, well, he had a machine working for him with investments. And it's very interesting to hear you had a very similar epiphany or understanding, but from a totally different standpoint of, hey, I went through this already once with my other business, my other relationship, and you were coming into that again, and you're saying, hey, didn't work the first time, I've got to change it, and kind of make that shift. So I thought that was really interesting to hear two different but similar people kind of have the same realization and same thought process.
Well, I think that what happens is I've literally trained tens of thousands of people, and I can tell you one pattern I have noticed beyond any other, right? Especially with young entrepreneurs that are coming in. We can con ourselves into anything, right? The visionary side of us, if you're not the technician, but you're the visionary, you can literally convince yourself of anything. And so what happens is, when we're in the grind and we're hustling and we're moving and we're trying to make all the moves, we're trying to go as hard as we can, we tell ourselves, I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for my wife. I'm trying to, which is a complete, utter bullshit lie that we tell ourselves. Because I promise you, your kids, your wife, and everything, if it was all to end today, they are not going to sit around and say, man, I just wish he'd flipped more houses. Right? That ain't going to happen. But they absolutely will say, man, I just wish I had more time with him. Right? Mm-hmm. And so it is a con. And so you basically have to have that wake-up call and understand that, dude, freedom comes from leverage. Freedom comes from giving options. Freedom comes by having the discipline to put the people, the processes, the leverage systems in place that allow you to actually enjoy the effort, right? I mean, to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, what the hell's the point? Otherwise, what you own is a really cool paying job. That's what you own. And if you want to own a business, you're going to have to get real serious about your time. You're going to get real serious about owning it. You're going to have to get real serious about having options in your life. And if you're not, then you are absolutely destined to repeat the same kind of mistakes that I made the first go around.
Love it. I thought that's phenomenal. One of the other things I thought that you brought up too that was very interesting. I remember listening to Barbara Corcoran on another podcast, and she was talking about how she grew her brokerage business from, the 150th in New York City up to like the top 3 over many, many decades, right? Yep. And she said, I didn't really do much except every downturn or crash, I just survived. And I would instantly get bumped up 20, 30, 40 spots on that rung because my competition went away and I was able to survive. And then as soon as that flipped and things started going positively, I was in a position to continue to grow while other people were trying to start. And I've always kept that in the back of my mind as, we've been talking a ton about people in our space, multifamily syndications getting very popular, a ton of people doing it, and a ton of people, in our opinion, starting to over leverage properties and their own business. And it's always been interesting to me of that statement and how it's going to play out in this next period. And it was very interesting to hear basically the same thing for you, where it was, hey, we were doing this. We just became one of the top providers because everybody else went away. There wasn't really anybody for else to compete against. And we just continued to, gobble up all that business and grow from there.
Yeah. I mean, this, what we are going through right now is going to be another great equalizer, right? Mm-hmm. As Warren Buffett says, when the tide rolls out, you get to see who's been swimming naked the whole time. Mm-hmm. And that's happening, right? You're quickly finding out who are the posers, who are the people that weren't running their business correctly, who are the people that were just kind of, playing CEO versus being CEO, and they won't be in business. The one true rule that I can tell you beyond any other rule in business is that you can count on your competition's mediocrity. As sure as the sun's going to rise tomorrow and set tonight, I guarantee you can count on your competition's mediocrity. It is... Most of your competition sucks, and they're not running the business that you think they're running. And it's in times like these where you get to figure that out real quick. So your job when it comes to these is you have a responsibility to not only, quite frankly, survive, but to thrive in markets like this, right? So when I see people, the clearest indicator is the moment that they stop marketing, right? When you have businesses that you're competing against and they stop marketing in a time like this, then right then, they're not who they think they are. They don't have their numbers. They don't understand how to create customers. They don't understand how to acquire properties. They don't understand how to cultivate and nurture relationships with buyers. There's no predictable outcome that they can create. That's why they yank back on marketing, because they look at marketing as throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks. And so most of, like in my world, most of my competition has immediately pulled back on marketing. And so just to your point, by virtue of doing that, look at all the market share that I gained. Right? I haven't had to do one thing except stay in the game. Keep marketing. Keep providing value. Keep staying in front of the customers. Keep in the game. And just by virtue of doing that, and my competition sucking so bad, I will gain and I will become a leader. I will continue to be the leader. It's probably the easiest way to say it. And so imagine now if what you do is not only survive, but then you truly understand your numbers to the point where you can start doubling down. Because your efforts, not only you gaining from your competition going away, but now you're creating so much distance because you can push ahead. There won't be, you can accomplish in the next year what would probably have taken you 5 or 10 years in the past, because you're competing for so much attention.
It's funny you said that, because we had a similar situation came up on a property of ours where we wanted apartments.com, one of the top listing sites, the top 3 offers that they give, and we're on the wait list. And lo and behold, when this all happened, people instantaneously cut off the marketing bucket and it became available. And my manager called me. I said, absolutely take it down, because that's a spot that you're never going to get. And now that it's available, let's spend the money. It's going to come back 10 times over, because now you're going to be at the top of the list. We've done it across the board, more direct mail, more outreach, because when someone stops and you pick up that market share, it's exponential growth. And
absolutely,
what we've been so excited about, and this is going to kick people in the teeth. And like you said, 90% of the people are going to they're not coming back, right? They're going to go do something else or figure something else out. But the 10% that hangs on, you're going to pick up so much of that competition. You're going to come out 10 times better. And, I don't want to say that, I was hoping for an event like this, because that's ridiculous. But, I always would joke around, I can't wait for the next recession, right? Because, we took the necessary steps going into it that gave us really good security to feel good. Like, okay, well, we won't buy a property this year, or maybe we only buy one. But when we come out of this, we'll be ready to go execute on that. And I think that's a super important part. When most people want to scale back and save every penny, there's the people that put their foot on the gas and they're like, no, we're going to go for the kill shot now, because now we're going to pick up where everyone else left off. So I think that was just awesome to hear.
That's just the way. Here's the again, kind of the cold hard facts. If you don't do it, somebody else will.
Yep.
Right? You have a responsibility to do it. This is your moment. This is your chance to absolutely, take advantage and be the leader. And not only do you have a responsibility in your market, you have a responsibility to your employees, your network, your families. This is a moment in time. If you didn't do this, you would be wasting it, right? And that would be very, very reckless and irresponsible.
I think it makes so much sense that if people are going to look back and say, what could I have done? I lost opportunities, but I remember when I first started working, as a financial advisor, even into real estate, what I would always tell younger people, and, I'm only 33, but what I would tell people is that when you put the phone down and that was the end of your day, I'm making twice the amount of calls, and and you're going to hang up. My next call is going to be someone that you could have contacted by just taking that next little effort. And the opportunity that is going to be in front of us over the next X years or months, whatever it is, if you don't strike now and whatever it is, you're going to lose so much runway by, guys coming in and taking that step. So I think it's really important.
And I'll give you guys this and the listeners this, because I've been asked a variation of this question, right, for years, right? I had a guy in a private mastermind a few years ago asked me, when you get to my level, why do you keep pushing, right? Why do you keep kind of going as hard as you're going? Why do you keep trying? Well, and is there fear? And my answer, I think, which would be helpful here, is that, yeah, there's still fear, of course. I mean, every single day, we're all trying to push in and do things that where we're sitting like, oh man, I'm not exactly sure that this is the right thing to do. But here, and to your point on the phone calls, here's the conversation that's going on in my head that always makes me move. And it's just very simple reminder. This is where my competition will stop. This is that moment. This is the moment where they will not do the next thing that is necessary to achieve greatness. So the only thing I have to do is make a step forward. Yep. Cross the line. Keep going. Because if I do that, again, I'm counting on their mediocrity. I'm counting on them going backwards. I will always win. And that has been a very powerful thing for me to kick into that makes me just keep pushing. And I think if people did more of that, they would get a lot more out of the efforts that they're putting out in the world.
No, it's important, because I think counting on mediocrity is so true. And like you said, people look at everybody and everybody looks like, they're driving a Ferrari and they're the CEO of $1 billion company. But unfortunately, it's smoke and mirrors. And 99 or 90% of the time, their mediocrity, and if you're just a little bit better, you're gonna run laps around them. So I think that, that's an awesome saying, and I cannot wait to plagiarize that from you and take it, because I truly do believe it. Because it's so true that 80% of people are they're just running in place and they're going through the motions, and just because they think they're a real estate investor or whatever it is, they're happy with it, and it's important to hear that.
So what are some things that you've seen as people are building up businesses or real estate investing businesses that you think are really important to set themselves up for either to see themselves through opportunities like this or to, capture different opportunities as they arise? Is there any sort of foundational things that you've seen that have been
I think
important to most people?
Yeah, I think that, we deal with a lot of people that are kind of in that starting out phase and then ultimately into the scaling up phase, right? So I get to see it kind of from, hey, I'm starting and then once they're off and running, they're off and running. And so I think what I see a lot of people do when they come in is let's just start the very beginning. The people that are just getting into the entrepreneurial game, here's one thing I see all the time, is that they have absolutely zero conception of how hard this really is. They have this insane belief, right? I mean, the easiest analogy I can give somebody is if I called you guys up and said, hey, look, I've been watching all the YouTube videos, I've downloaded every book, and I've listened to every podcast on what it takes to be a successful MMA fighter. And I know I haven't done anything yet, but I'm ready to go to this UFC championship. Put me in, let's do this shit, let's go. But I think I can win. You guys would look at me and say, dude, you're fucking crazy. What is wrong with you, right? You can't do that. But that's the way people approach business, which is fucking insane to me. The expectation should be that, hey, man, I got to get in the ring. I got to get my ass whipped. I'm going to have to get choked out a few times. I'm going to have to get hit in the face. I'm going to get a few teeth knocked out. I'm going to get a lot of black eyes, maybe some broken bones. And then after each one of those, I'm going to go back to my coach, and my coach is going to say, do this. But through that process, I'm going to learn. I'm going to grind. I'm going to understand what it takes. And over the course of a lot of time, effort and energy and continuing education, then I can ultimately maybe expect to be a champion. But anything less than that is just silly. But people come into this business and a lot of businesses and don't expect to get the hits. They don't expect to get choked out. They don't expect to get hit in the face. They don't expect the black eyes. They don't expect to have to go back to a coach and talk. They expect they can go watch a video, read a book, or listen to a podcast, and suddenly they're going to. So the biggest thing I can tell somebody starting out is you need to expect to get hit. I mean, you guys have been doing this a while. I have no doubt you have the scars to prove it, right? You haven't been right every time. You've had those sleepless nights. You've had those days where you're like, oh shit, I don't know if we did this right, or did we over leverage ourselves, or have we overcommitted? I mean, we've all been there, right? But people, because of social media and what have you, they have these very, very unrealistic expectations of what just business is, much less real estate business. And so I think if more people came in ready to get hit and looked at the hits as the good stuff, right? The struggle, like if I'm getting in there and getting my ass whipped, I look at that as, hey man, I'm learning. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to whip this guy's ass, right? It might take me 6 months, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm willing to go in there and pay the price to figure it out. That's the way people should approach business is I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to take the hits. I'm going to do what it takes, but I'm not giving up, right? I ain't going anywhere. I'm here. And so I think that is a really important component that I see a lot of people coming out. The second thing I don't think a lot of people have a healthy respect for is just the art of influence and persuasion and being able to talk to buyers and talk to sellers and talk to private money, partners and the sheer nuance of being able to communicate effectively with people is everything, quite frankly. If you can get this right, number one, and then you can apply the skills of understanding how to work, really how to listen to people, how to be empathetic, how to use, triggers to get to find out the truth and get into just real salesmanship, quite frankly. And I don't mean that in a sleazy way. I just mean it in a, this is a skill. Learning how to communicate is a skill. And if you can understand how to do that and understand how to put yourself in the mind of your prospect, again, whether that's a buyer or seller or private money lender or a banker or whoever else, but clearly understand how to do that with people, man, there's not a business that you can't be successful in. And I think that those are kind of, to your point, like those are hard foundational rocks for me. Like you got to have your head in the game correctly and you got to be able to communicate correctly. And if you can get those two things, then, from that point forward, doing multifamily deals and syndication deals to you guys is like, breathing, right? Doing wholesale deals and turnkey deals to me is like breathing. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that is not the case to everybody else that's out there, but we all know, the three of us clearly know that the actual deal part of it is about this much, mm-hmm. right? About this much is having the balls to actually get out there and do it. Right? Which is all the other stuff. The actual technical, how do I actually put this deal together? How do I evaluate this deal? How do I know that I'm going to, make money on it, create the return for my investors? That's about this much of the deal. 10%, 90% is just being able to get your head in the game, take the massive action, face your fears, overcome those fears, communicate effectively, market well, get the prospects in there, communicate over the phone, convert a lead into a deal. That's what it really is. And so I think that a lot of people need to pay closer attention to 1 and 2. And unfortunately, what they end up focusing on is 3. And, my experience, 3 doesn't matter unless 1 or 2 are in place. How to do the deal, how to put it together, nobody gives a shit. You train.
It's so true because I have so many people that come to me and that they talk about, do you have a model? How do you underwrite? And like that's this much, as you said, it's important to have it, but anyone can get that piece of it done, right? They're out there. They're a dime a dozen, right? There's a million deals. The country is so big. You can find it if you really want it. The question is, can you put it all together? And I think that's where people, they watch a podcast and they're like, oh, well, look, I'm going to go, flip houses. I'm going to go do this. They don't realize that 90% is not just, I'm going to press a couple buttons and I'm going to have my Excel spreadsheet spit something out and this is going to go perfectly. Because, I think it was either a Gatorade commercial or a Nike commercial, the one with Dwayne Wade, where it's like you keep falling down and you get back up. But people think that it's just all, it's straight up. And I say, it doesn't go that way. You're going to get derailed and you got to get back on the tracks and you got to know what to do, how to communicate it, how to get someone, who to call, how to help, whether it's a coach, a mentor. You got to get your train back going on the right track forward. And just finding the deal is the easy part. The hard part is executing the full transaction to the end. Absolutely. And that's the part where, that's where the money's made. But that's also the part that people think just because they read a book, they can do it. And that could be the case. And I'm not saying it's not, but more often than not, it takes a little bit more.
Well, I'll go one step further. We have a saying in our office that give me ignorance on fire versus knowledge on ice. And so I will take the dipshit that is willing to run through a wall and has got the right mindset and has got good communication skills, maybe not know how to necessarily do a good real estate deal just yet, but they got the drive, they have the ambition, they know, they've got the energy that it's going to take and they got the will to succeed. I'll take that person all day long over the overeducated person over here that'll be broke as shit because they'll never make a move because this isn't right. And it's that simple, right? So give me ignorance on fire versus knowledge on ice all day long. Because I can't tell you how many, and I know you guys know them too, how many really, really rich dipshits that we know out there in the world, and how many really, really broke, overeducated people we know out in the world. I mean, that's just a fact.
It's so true.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that you brought sports into a comparison of business, because I think it's directly related and directly correlated from success and failure. The problem is it's significantly more black and white in athletics to see who's succeeding, who's failing, who has failed and overcome it. And especially now with the rise of social media and everything, now you can basically, watch athletes when they go to the gym, when they leave the gym, when they're doing recovery. I mean, if you've got a NBA star who, Instagrams their entire day on their stories, you can see what time they get into the gym, what time they get into the trainers. You can basically see what it takes. For business, that's significantly harder to see, and it's significantly harder to judge, your wins versus losses, because one, it's significantly more private. Two, it's massively bigger than, 30 NBA teams. And, your wins and your losses aren't necessarily as black and white. So I think it's just much harder to understand how much it does actually take to succeed, and that, you are going to encounter, a ton of failures on, your way to success.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also think that the reason why sports analogies work so well with business is because there are so many Monday morning, quarterbacks, right? Everybody's got an opinion over there. And to your point, in some cases, they've watched what's taking place during the week. Some cases they haven't. They're just showing up on Saturday and Sunday and watching the game, right? And have an opinion and rooting for their team. But I think when smart people have an appreciation for how much work somebody like Tom Brady or LeBron James puts in, year round to get to a level they're getting at, or a Tiger Woods or whoever it is. And so if you can help somebody make that connection and say, look, you're seeing literally one day, Tiger Woods, let's just say he plays in 20 tournaments. You're seeing 20 tournaments, 3 days, so 60 days out of a 365-day year. This guy's going all the time. LeBron James, I mean, God, if you watch him on Instagram, the guy's training like a fool right now, right? And so I think that, and Tom Brady's doing the same. I mean, I think that smart people can help make that connection. It kind of bridges that gap. And when you can help somebody bridge that gap, it kind of puts them in a place where at least they can wrap their mind around what is expected of them. The worst thing they can do, and it will be the detriment, and it is the reason why most businesses fail, in my humble opinion, is that they go into it with very, very unrealistic expectations. I can't tell you how many times, I'm sure you guys have heard some of the horror stories, but I can't tell you how many times that people come into this world and they put in a half-hearted effort, spend, $97, and it didn't work out in 3 weeks for them. And suddenly they're throwing their hands up in the air and saying, this is all a scam. And you're just like, dude, what fucking planet are you from? Are you kidding me right now? You would never approach any other thing in your world like this, right? You would not go and buy P90X or T25 and take it and open it one time and put it on here and then never do the workouts and say, that doesn't work. But yet you do this in business all day long. It's like, what the hell what's wrong with you, right? And so you got to which is okay. I mean, it takes all kinds, but my point of it is like when you can help people, when they can start psychologically getting into that place and understand this is an all-out war, and that's what business is. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I just mean like it's a war within yourself. You're gonna take on you're going to entertain your worst fears, right? You're going to have a lot of sleepless nights, but it's also going to be the most rewarding thing you've ever done in your life if you keep at it.
No, I think it's important, but let me ask a follow-up question on that. Do you think that person that spends the $97, puts in no effort and fails, do you think that's the first step of their many failures to possibly eventually turning into something? Or do you think that person just has no real idea?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think it is much more common for them to look. We are a product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And what you'll find in a lot of cases, right? A lot of those people, they have a hope and a prayer and an idea of a dream, right? And they buy into something, but quite frankly, and a lot of times they're buying into a lot of somethings, right? They bought 10 $97 things all in the last 30 days. And they're surrounding themselves with, either one of two types of individual. One, they've either got naysayers in their life that are basically shitting on everything they're doing and saying, what are you doing, right? Which is clearly impacting their psychology. Or they kind of have this whole lottery winner mentality, which is kind of the same thing, right? It's, I want to scratch it off and see if I won. I'm scratching this one off, see if this one wins. Yeah. And then, so in either case, they don't have the right environment or the right mentality to kind of what it takes to get to the next level. So if anybody that's watching this is kind of falling into that category or hearing this, the very first thing you should go do is you should go, read a book called, The Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, or go read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Go read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. These are books, Think and Grow Rich, by Napoleon Hill. These are books that will start to at least wear down and make you a little bit more self-aware of the decisions that you're making are your outcome, right? And when the moment you kind of start owning your outcome, then you can start to make better decisions and go into it a little more eyes wide open. So to your point, yeah, if that is the first step, and this is, something that they're listening to and they would fall into that category, well, then hopefully the next step, what I just gave them, will make it where it is just the first step in a many-step journey and is not the last step. Unfortunately, I think that what happens is in a lot of cases, people buy something like that and they are either habitual buyers, like I said, and so everything is a scam, or they turn to their world and misery loves company. They surround themselves with a bunch of other people that get to all shit on the same kind of thing. See, the world's got me down. I can't do anything. Government did this, that did that. I got screwed over here, and so, the world's a very, very simple place, in my opinion. You get what you focus on. And if you focus on always being the victim, you'll be shocked at how many times there's all too many people that are willing to get right up around you and say, yeah, I was a victim too. And we get to all be victims together. If you focus on being the victor of your life, focus on the opportunities versus the obstacles, you'd be shocked at what can actually take place in your life. And if I was going to leave, share anything, that's probably the single biggest thing, is that we are all looking at this situation right now when this is being recorded, right? In the midst of the pandemic crisis, right? Still on lockdown. And the three of us are looking at this as an opportunity right now. We're literally looking at it like, man, this is a chance. I heard you guys talking right before we went live, man. It's a chance for us to tighten up some systems and all this stuff, right? This is an opportunity, clearly defined. What you have to appreciate is probably 90% of the people out in the world are looking at it as obstacles. Oh my God, I don't have a job. They cut off my payment. I'm getting laid off. I've got this, this and this. Everything is an obstacle. I've got this wall in front of me that's preventing me from my dreams. When we all clearly know that that's just what you're focusing on, because if it just turned this way, there's so much opportunity out here to improve yourself, to go and get new skills. I mean, for God's sakes, we were giving away our education for the last 5 weeks, stuff we normally charge $1,500 for. We're just giving it to thousands and thousands of people. Learn a new skill. And we're not alone. There's people all over the world that did the exact same thing. If you get what you focus on, if you focus on the obstacle, you're going to find that you're kind of falling into that victim mentality, right? The obstacle be the $97. I just couldn't get time to do it. I couldn't get my computer to work. The obstacle versus, man, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. I'm gonna figure this shit out. I don't care. I'll figure it out. I'll get it, whatever it takes. I don't care. I'll go get a new computer. I'll go borrow a friend's computer. I'll go to the library. I don't care. I'll figure out how to get to the next level.
I think that looking at a negative situation like this pandemic, when it happened, yeah, a lot of things came to a pause, but I said instantaneously, just, there's more time. Normally you get hung up on the day-to-day and over doing the same stuff. Now, that got shut off. So it's like, okay, what can I do to be better? Let's try this system. And I think that people have to, that shift in mindset or focus or whatever you want to call it. People don't do it. They don't give a fuck. People, they always, they'd rather watch, the whole entire whatever of Harry Potter on Netflix than complain they don't have a job, than saying, you know what, I'm going to use this opportunity to, take 2 hours every morning, wake up a little bit earlier and learn something new. Whether it's I'm going to go install a patio in my backyard to I'm going to go see if I could create some type of business system. Whatever it is,
do it.
but it takes that little bit of effort. I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier, or instead of watching an entire marathon of TV, go read a couple books, educate yourself, start networking with the right people.
And it's not even fucking, you don't even have to wake up early anymore. I mean, right? You got 7 hours to do jack shit that you didn't have before.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's improving your relationship. It's an opportunity to improve your relationship with your wife, your husband, your kids. It's an opportunity for you to, go whatever it is. To your point in life, there is a silver lining to this, right? And it absolutely exists. But if you're so focused on the obstacles, you'll never see it. It'll go right by you. And then you'll get to look up. And guess what? Either way, you get to be right. It was the same situation, but you get to decide which part of that you're going to like. Am I going to be the person that plays on this side and says, woe is me, my business is getting impacted, I'm, whatever, right? The sky is falling. I'm going to be the person over here that's going, man, look at all of the things that I've improved in my life because of this, right? I got to spend more time with my kids. I got to clean up my finances. Like, my business was running a little fat, so I got to lean it up now. I didn't have a chance to really look at it before, but now I do. I got to get rid of, things in my life that weren't helping me. I got to improve my skills in this area. I learned a new thing over here, right? I got whatever it is. People that were like, well, I don't have time to go to the gym. Well, you got nothing but time now, right?
No, so that I've used that excuse.
Get your fat ass in front of a fucking, in front of a couch and turn on Instagram lives, and then just every trainer in the world is
doing free classes.
I mean, how hard? I mean, that's my point. You get what you focus on. And if you want something to work bad enough and the dream is big enough, you will figure out how to be resourceful enough to get it done.
100%.
How does somebody who has not been that way, whether it's entrepreneurial or resourceful or someone who's willing to just figure it out, is there a way to become that? Is there a way to overcome some of those challenges? Is there a way to start incorporating that more into your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to, we live in a world that's, as we've all proven, is changing in real time, right? Virtual relationships are a real thing now. They weren't before, right? I mean, they were kind of, but they weren't like this. So tuning in to podcasts and video podcasts like this, watching stuff like this. I mean, this is your inner circle now. Instead of going listen to the 5 douchebags out there and you being number 6, how about you just spend a ton of time on this kind of stuff, feeding your mind the stuff that will slowly over time. It's not going to happen like this, but slowly over time, right? As the saying goes, a rising tide raises all ships. If you think about that for a minute, what that means is that, man, if I just surround myself with bigger thinkers, and I don't even mean physically, but I'm just feeding my mind with people that play at a very different level, and that think about life and think about situations differently than naturally, I promise you will start to think about things differently as well. You can't, and the same is true the other way, right? I mean, if you're sitting around by the campfire every night while this pandemic's going on, and you're just drinking a Coors Light with your buddies and shooting the shit, and nobody's really helping you improve in any way, then you don't get the piss and moan about how life didn't really change for you, right? Mm-hmm. But on the contrary, if you turn around and say, man, I can't do that anymore. That's not me. That version of me, I've got to be disciplined enough to make that go away. I'm going to spend more time investing in things like this. I'm going to, and I'll give you a perfect example would be me, because this never stops. This is the key to success the whole way, right? There's always somebody playing at a bigger level than you, right? So now, my inner circle is people like Jesse Itzler or Ed Milet, right? Roland Frazier, Frank Kern, Steve Weatherford, people that played a much larger level than I play and continue to push me up. I've learned the secret that if I want to get to next level, I have to go put myself in rooms and put myself around people that are playing at a higher level than me, always, right? And continue to do that. The moment I stop doing that will be the moment that I've just settled and I've become that ocean of mediocrity that's out there, right? Because I'm not pushing to go up. And so that's what people have to do. And again, we live in a world where doing that virtually now is kind of a thing, right? Getting on a podcast like this and others, really turning it to being very, very diligent with what you're reading, very diligent with what you're listening to and what you're watching, not going and binging on Netflix, but going and, watch really good programming that isn't necessarily just on business or real estate. I mean, it can be on health and fitness. It can be on mindset. I mean, John Assaraf is a very good friend, amazing guy when it comes to mindset. Michael Burnoff is another great guy when it comes to mindset and kind of unlocking what's going on inside of your brain. You got to be disciplined. And when you do that, to your question, a rising tide raises ships. You will naturally begin to evolve. And it's very challenging, in my opinion, in my experience, it's very challenging when you start to hold yourself accountable and when your mind starts to expand. It's very, very uncomfortable to go backwards. Mm-hmm. Right? You actually feel like I'm playing small. Like that doesn't feel good anymore. What used to feel normal to me, kind of playing half-ass in that area, that doesn't feel good. I consciously know I'm doing it. I'm owning my outcome. So therefore, I need to change and go make different decisions. And that's what you're trying to get to, right? Is just arm yourself with the tools where when you play small and you're not doing what you're capable of doing, it doesn't feel good. And then you will naturally change.
And I think that the one other thing there that I think people don't, the unfortunate truth is you got to look in the mirror first. And it starts, as you said, you sit around, the fire drinking beers with your friends, there's no one to blame but yourself. But I think to make that shift and to do something, you have to at least tell yourself, you have to say, okay, I'm not doing it anymore. And you have to make a conscious effort, because it's not just going to be one $97 course on, some pill you take and you lose 50 pounds. There's got to be a decision made internally that you focus on. And that, coupled with everything else, I think is that's the gasoline to the fire to keep going. Because I know that feeling where you're like, wow, I'm really being a lazy bastard, or I'm really being, I'm really not taking myself to the next level. And it's a shitty feeling if you've ever, gone up a step. So I think it also takes the individual to say, I got to change.
Well, you know what? I'll give you guys two things here. And two exercises anybody that's listening to or watching this can absolutely do that will hopefully kind of snap somebody back into shape. Number one would be, you need to go answer 4 questions. And the 4 questions are, why do I want to do this? Right? Like really hardcore down in your gut. Why is it not okay to work for somebody else? Why is it not okay to be in a pandemic and have somebody else controlling your income? Why do you insist on making a change right now? Why are you fighting for this dream? Why are you putting so much at risk? Why? That is a huge question. The next 2 questions are kind of correlated, and it's like, what do you stand for? Like in your gut, what do you actually stand for? Because it's pretty hard to sit here and stand in front of me and tell me you stand for integrity, you stand for doing the right thing, you stand for fighting for a dream, and then watch you not fucking do it, right? You can't tell me you stand for something if you're not going to actually do the thing you stand for, right? So what do you stand for? What do you stand against? Like write these answers down and keep them in front of you, because these are kind of like what your core values, the really being introspective. This is what really matters to me as a human being, the reason I want to make better decisions. And the last thing is what do you believe in so strong that you're willing to die for? What are you willing to go to war for, right? What are my non-negotiables? I'm not backing off this, right? Kids, family, whatever. If somebody has kids and you're sitting here telling me I stand for integrity, I stand for fighting for my dream, I stand for going out and trying to do something, I'm really putting things at risk. And then those days you don't do it, guess what? You are a douchebag and you're full of shit. And that doesn't feel good because you wrote it down. You could have wrote anything down, right? And that's how you start creating change in yourself, because you're like, man, I don't get to sit here and say I would die for my kids and I want my kids to have a better life and I want them to see me excel, and then I don't show up. Today I didn't show up. Today I'm not feeling like doing it. Today I'm not the best version of it. No, those days you got to show up. And so that's kind of something you could start doing. The other thing I would tell you to do is go calculate how much time you have left on this planet, right? If you are a man, go take the number 78 and subtract your current age. And, I think one of you said you were 33 years old, right? So you're sitting here now with 45 days left on, or 45 years left on this planet. You have 45 summers. You got 45 Christmases left. You got 45 first day, opening day of baseball seasons. You got 45 more opportunities. 45 more opportunities to take your kids to an NFL game.
Yep.
Right? So think about that for a second. And then now take that number and go multiply that. And by the way, for a female, American female, it's 82. Take your age and go multiply that times 365. That's how many days you have left statistically on this planet. Now you get to decide what you get to do with every single one of them. If you want to sit around and be a douchebag and not fight for your dream, that's a decision now. Because once a mind is expanded, it can never contract. You don't ever get to go bury your head in the sand and say, I didn't know. That's bullshit. You now know. Mm-hmm. Statistically speaking, this is what you got left. And by the way, go write them on a whiteboard, or if you don't have a whiteboard at the house, just go take a dry erase marker and go put it on your mirror in your master bedroom. Go write the number down. And every day when you wake up, go erase it and count it down. Every day. Watch your life tick away. And when you watch your life tick away and you have a dream, if those two things don't shock you into a place where I got to make better decisions, nothing else will.
It's funny you said that, because when my daughter's 14 months old now, my first daughter, only daughter, only kid. That's amazing, dude. That's awesome. You know, I'm running around, chasing around the house, and I'm like, yo, fuck, you're really fat and out of shape. It's horrible. So since that moment, it's not a joke, I've literally worked out an hour and a half. I did a podcast maybe about a month ago, and I said, you know, for me personally, I can't slowly get into something because I'll stop. So it's been an overkill of exercise. I feel great. I'm chasing around the house, and I've had that opportunity with, you know, what's going on, luckily or not. But the other day, you know, it was like, I thought about that exactly. It's okay. I am 32, you know, you're getting older. Shit's going to happen and you have no control over it. You can only control what you can control. So you might as well do anything in your power to have, like you said, 45 more, whatever, you know, first day of summer, whatever it is. And, you know, I never look at it that way. That, you know, that way is a little bit more, you know, kick you in the gut and you say, oh shit, I got to get my act together. But the other one, and I'm going to get shit, like I'm going to get beat right here. But we were talking the other day because the U.S. soccer team, they lost that lawsuit about getting equal pay as men.
Right.
And I foolishly, with my wife, my daughter, and me, I said, well, you know, I can't disagree with them not getting paid as much. And I'm not saying that women don't deserve to get paid like men. They do. They're equals. But I said, you know, they don't generate as much money. And I didn't make the comparison to soccer. I said, you know, women's soccer doesn't generate as much money as football or basketball. That's why they get paid more money. So all I said was, you know, they want to get paid equal. They want to get paid equal. They don't generate enough. Then my wife said, you have a daughter, you know, you don't think she deserves the same. And I said, no, everyone deserves what they earn, what they do. If they want to make more money, they can make more money. They might not get it in salaries, but they can do other things to equal it out. LeBron James makes X million a year from basketball. He also makes a lot of other money from a lot of other things. So I'm not saying that, you know, women don't deserve to get paid. No, not the intention. But when I looked at it and said, okay, I want to be better for my daughter and my wife, that the piggyback of that is, you know, I didn't want, you know, you can't be mad if someone rules down on you and says you don't deserve it. Well, no, you might not deserve it in that manner, but you can go get it another way. And that was the purpose of that. It was just, you know, use this time for all of that. You know, ask yourself those questions, write it on the wall, and watch how much you hate yourself day after day if you don't make a change. And that will either erase it and continue to hate yourself, or you'll start making steps. And I think that's, you know, awesome.
That's it. Yep.
It's crazy that you brought that up. I was listening to somebody else talk about the same concept, but they were referencing like your parents, and they were saying like, how many times do you see somebody was out of state and they were like, how many times do you see your parents? They're like twice a year. They're like, how many more years do you think they got left? And they're like 5. And they were like, that's a lot of time. And he said, well, if you only go see them twice a year, 5 times, you're going to see your parents 10 more times. And when you start thinking about it that way, it puts things into a different perspective. Right. And it's very interesting to hear you take that same lens and apply it to your own life and your business, because I think it is going to shock a lot of people.
Successful
kind of wake you up.
Successful people have a very different relationship with time than most. Mm-hmm. That's definitely an observation I've made. They have a good friend of mine, Ed Milet, I just had him on one of my podcasts, and he was talking about that he tries to get 3 24-hour days into one day. Like he lives his life in 6-hour increments, right? He's like, so I'm trying to accomplish what most would accomplish on a Monday, you know, throughout the whole day. I'm trying to accomplish in the first 6 hours. From 6 to 12, that's day 1. From 12 to 6, that's day 2. From 6 to 12, that's day 3. I'm going to get 3 days, and then I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to get 3 days worth of activity done in one day. So by the time you get through your 31 days, through business days, I've accomplished 84 days. So tell me how you're going to whip my ass.
Well, that's like, there's a book that I just finished. It's the 12-week year. And it's something, Chris, I don't even notice. I've tried to implement that into what we're doing. You basically take 12 weeks as a year. So 1 quarter is 1 year. So you get 4 years in 1 year. So you try and get more done quicker. So it's also, there's no way I can look at you and say, oh, my business is going to generate $10 million in 10 years. It's too far out to know. It might generate 100 million or it might generate 1 million. But if you can take that and shorten it and get more done by teaching each week as a 12-week, do it that method exactly like that, you're shocked at how much more you're going to accomplish. And you're also you're on mile 23, and your competition is tying their shoes. You feel good. It's like when I like waking up early, because I know now it's a little different because I take care of my daughter, but before I know by 8 o'clock in the morning I've done more than anyone's going to do for the day, and it's an amazing feeling. It's the same concept. Now going a little bit further, I think it's an amazing thing, and that book is it's awesome.
You have a different relationship with time than the people around you, and it's just that simple, right? And when you have a healthy respect for time and extracting as much value out of it as you possibly can, and you're in a hurry to collect moments and not collect shit, you will see that there's a lot of prosperity at every level that really follows with that.
Yep, I agree 100%.
So I have one last question. I think then it'll be really good to wrap it up because we've covered a ton. As you were talking earlier about the 5 people and rising tide and getting people that are above you to pull you up, how does somebody integrate themselves with somebody that is quote unquote above them without creating a negative relationship for that person? So you're not a hindrance, you're not overbearing, you're not anything like that. How do you integrate yourself with somebody who's either just above you, several steps above you, et cetera?
Try to bring value to their life. What's called results in advance, right? I have a ton of people that over the years that have come to me with their hand out. Kent, I would love to, can you show me how to do a deal and we'll split it 50-50, right? No, it's never going to happen. Now, I've equally had people that said, here's what I would like to do. I'm going to come in and I will pay rent to sit in your office. Now, mind you, people pay $20,000 to spend 2 days with me, in private coaching, right? So, and this person's, and these people are kind of making a smart move. They're like, hey, can I come and just rent a desk in your office? I want to sit here and I want to do deals, and I will split those deals with you 50-50 if I can just pay you rent in your office and sit there and work, I just want to work side by side with you. Or I've had other people, hey, I've filmed all these videos. I've taken clips from you online, and I've put together this montage of videos. Here's 10 content videos for your Instagram. I've done it all for free. I just want to prove to you that I'm worth getting into your life, right? You got a job. Done, right? Results in bring somebody results in, and by the way, it doesn't have to even be something like that. But my point of it is that what you're going to find is that it's not as difficult as you make it out to be, right? If you come into somebody like my world, I want to surround myself with amazing people, and that people that believe what I believe. And I'm all too happy to help people that are bringing value into my life. What I have no interest in are the time vampires, the leeches, the people that are coming in and they want something for nothing and they're not fully committed. If somebody's willing to come in here and sit on their ass and intern here for a year for free to learn, that's somebody that has the drive and ambition that I want. That's exactly what I did, right? When I got into it, I didn't have the money when I was starting this to go and hire a mentor and do that. So I basically saved the money when I got going until the point where I could hire a mentor, So if I couldn't get in there for free, then I was definitely going to make the investment because I want to get to the finish line earlier, right? I want to get there faster than everybody else. And so if you can't just bring value to somebody's life and you can't figure out a way to help them achieve what they're trying to do, and by virtue of doing that, you're now surrounding yourself with them, then you need to think really long and hard about how to actually approach them about making an investment for them to spend some time with you, right? Mm-hmm. And you'll be shocked. I mean, hey, I'll give you a great example. With Ed Milet, right? So the way I became friends with Ed Milet and Rising Tide is, I put on big events, and I'm like, okay, I'll pay you $50,000 to come spend time at my event, right? You're going to speak for 1 hour. I'm hiring you for 4. So I guess what happens with the other 3? we're going to sit around. We're going to get to know each other, right? I'm going to tell you, we're going to figure this out. And through that process, we figured out that we had common interests, and now, fast forward 2 years later, we've been to each other's houses. We've hung out a lot. We talk a lot. There's more than one way to get in there. You just have to be creative and resourceful. Mm-hmm. I've had people that, I had a guy many, many years ago, a guy by the name of Chris Richter, that came in and hired me one day for personal coaching, sent me $15,000, shows up at my house in La Jolla. I'm ready to coach him. And he sits down and is like, no, I just wanted to spend a day with you because I have an idea. I have a business and I want to propose it to you. And I know this was the only way I could get the audience with you. And I'll be damned if we didn't go into business together and make millions of dollars, right? There's more than one way. You just have to be creative. You have to be resourceful. And it isn't always about investing money. Mm-hmm. A lot of times you've got to be more resourceful than that to get the audience. But if you care about your dream big enough, that's a moot point. You'll figure it out.
I love it.
I was going to say, that's an awesome answer to an awesome question that I don't think people ask enough. And the answer is exactly that. It's value. So I think that was, if anyone's listening and they don't like my face, Kent's face, Chris's, fast forward to the end and just listen to that answer. Because if you want to make the next step, just fucking bring some value to someone. Value pays, value rewards. So that was awesome.
Awesome. I think that's a phenomenal place to wrap up. Kent, thank you so much for coming on. I definitely picked up a ton of stuff. I think anybody listening is going to get a tremendous amount from this episode. If people don't already follow you, don't already know where to find out information about you or know how to get in touch with you, where can they do all of that?
I'm on all social media. So Kent Clothier, just my name, on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, you name it, right? And believe it or not, I never thought I would say this. TikTok. Just go to kentclothier.com. We're easy to find.
Beautiful. Love it. Kent, thank you so much for doing this. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're not already subscribed, it would mean the world of us if you would. And if you are already subscribed, please send it to a friend, family member, acquaintance that you think would get a tremendous amount of value from this episode or others. Kent, thank you once again for coming on. This was tremendous.
You got it. Peace, guys. Take care.
Thank you.